3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Corey Thompson from Dice Tower Dish, Dice Tower Now, and Above Board.
And this is the Podfather of gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 283. And we're recording this on July 12th, only 3 days since the last recording session, 2023.
It's been like weeks for me.
Yes, but we don't care about you. You wait till you hear this. You should hear the last episode and what we called you. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. And at Dice Tower East Convention this past week, which we talked about last time, Tom Vassell was oddly friendly to me. It is certain that he wants something from me. I await the phone call asking me for a favor, and I will tell him, I will grant you this favor. But someday, and the day may never come, the Podfather will ask you for a favor, and you will grant it. But until then, enjoy this day of gaming. There you go, Corey. There's my best Marlon Brando.
That was something.
But you, thank you. But you really did miss a great convention. I always talk highly about Dice Tower East.
I feel
Tower West.
so bad. I've been to, I'm going to say, nearly every Dice Tower event for years and years and years now.
The cons.
This is the cons, retreats, cruises. And this is the first one in a very long time that I've missed. And I was so jealous. Everything I was seeing, all the posts you were putting up, everything everyone was telling me, it looked like such a fun time. But I couldn't do that much travel. I've been hopping coast to coast to coast to coast so often.
Yeah, no. And that's one of the reasons I didn't go to Origins. I mean, that is the reason, because of the amount of travel. It's been crazy. But just to recap, again, small amount for people who forgot or whatever, or for you, that Board Games Insider meetup that we had was off the hook. And with barely any advertising, it was only one episode where we mentioned that we were going to do it.
I saw pictures that looked so amazing.
We had 30 at least, because I counted at one time, and it wasn't the final count. It was at least 35 people showed up. Thankfully, my pizza math was terrible, and I had plenty of pizza for everybody, plenty of beer. Really, literally, after an hour was over, almost all the pizza was gone. All the beer had just like I took the last one with me. We had some extra water, some extra soda. We did not do crokinole, but what we did was we did a In Vino Morte game. Do you know what the game that is?
Yes. Oh,
like,
man. It's the Battle of Minds from Princess Bride.
It is.
Put into a board game, into a card game. And I've actually been in a game of that with you, and you play it up. You have way too much fun.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. I'm going to quick mention now, and I'm going to mention it again in Strategy and Tactics, that this is basically your last chance to enter the contest. I had said that on the last episode, but I realized it was dropping sooner. So this one will drop on the 19th of July. You have one day, July 20th, which happens to be the anniversary of the manned moon landing, Apollo 11. So I just picked that
1969.
In 1969. And if put it in there and you could win prizes, we'll get to that in a second. Corey, in the meantime, your crazy schedule and all your businesses, what's going on with Corey Thompson?
Oh, man. So not that long ago, I was at RageCon. So I guess the last time that I was on the podcast, I actually recorded from Origins, and Origins was amazing. Right. It was the first time I'd been to Origins, but it turned into really a social event for me. There were so many people there I never get to see. Played some fun games, but right after Origins, I went to RageCon, which is the Reno Area Gaming Event Expo. And I got to visit with my good friends, Johnny Pack, the designer of Coloma, Henry Audubon, who's the designer of Parks, Ben Maddox, who's the host of 5 Games for Doomsday, who, by the way, gorgeous singing voice. He and Johnny Pack put on a concert. It was amazing. Scott Rogers was there. Ammon Anderson was there. Brant Brinkerhoff, who makes the absolutely addictive game Oros.
Drop some more names where everyone's enjoying this.
There were too many to mention, but I had such a good time. Right now, though, I'm in full bore Gen Con panic mode. So above board.
Are you in
You
LA
know,
right now? You're in LA.
I am in the studio in LA at Above Board Studio, where we have our new lights, our new AR studio, huge green screen, robotic cameras, everything's set up. We're ripped and raring to go. But we are going to make a big splash at Gen Con. We have kind of taken over all the concession areas of Gen Con. So we have window ads, we have wraps on the tables, QR codes everywhere. The concession workers are going to be wearing our t-shirts. We are actually getting ready to do a special celebrity event stage show with some pretty big names on Friday, August 4th at 10 a.m. So, unfortunately, it also was announced today that the Screen Actors Guild is going on strike. So, we need to figure out if they're on strike during Gen Con, what can we film, what can we do? The good news is we can do a stage show and consider it a play, no matter what.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just whether we can film. We're still working out the details.
Oh,
So,
cool. Well, that's
out of
good.
my control.
So give us the day and time again so people can try. And I mean, you can. There's still seats available at Gen Con, and it's like $2
Sure.
or something like that, right? It's a real cheap amount of money to pay to get in.
We have the big stage on Friday, August 4th at 10 a.m. And it is a celebrity stage event for Above Board.
And don't you also have Saturday at 10 a.m. for a Q&A?
We do. We have a Q&A with our cast after Saturday, 10 a.m.
That is really
and we're
cool.
doing other fun surprises at Gen Con. So, yeah.
Right. And this is
if you're there, find me.
Right, and this is and those who have been to like the Dice Tower main stage events, this is gonna be that same room, I'm sure, room 500, which is right there, like down the hall, and that's one of in the center of the convention center.
1,000 seats.
Yeah, 1,000 seats. Come on there. Bring some tickets. Bring some generic tickets. If you didn't buy the exact ticket, you can get in. I guarantee it. It's going to be amazing. Of course, I will be there sitting in the front row, and Corey's going to invite me on stage. Anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's the big thing that's going on for me now. I'm still kind of recovering from all the travel and Gen Con. That's all that's on my mind. Gen Con.
Right.
I'm trying to get everything lined up, all my ducks in a row.
Very good, very good. So over here at the Podfather of Gaming, as I mentioned, Dice Tower East Convention wrap up, and it was fantastic. The BGI meetup was amazing. It just shows that, like, you know, people out there like free beer. No, people out there actually like us. They talked. They were so happy to hang out. And it was a lot of fun energy. And I want to mention, because I forgot the gentleman's name on the last episode, but I finally remembered it. I got it. Pat Ransom is the winner of the In Vino Morte. So now he is not considered the Board Games Insider World Champion of In Vino Morte. That's official title. Ignacy still claims the title of Crokinole Champion, but it's not true because we couldn't play because we couldn't get a board and bring it out. Now, somebody mentioned, well, why don't we go inside and do it like after the meetup? We probably should have, but Ignacy was very busy because he was showing off Imperial Miners, which I'm going to give him a shout out. He's going to be talking about this for like the next 6 months. But
I'm so excited about it. I really wanted to play.
He got a production copy, got flown out from the printer for this. Look, of course I'm going to say nice things about it, but you can usually tell when I really love something versus like, oh, that's good. I'm going to talk up my, like, you know, I keep showing 51st State here, right? Like it's been sitting on my desk. Still in shrink, of course, but I've never played this, but I always hear great things about it. But that's not what I'm talking about. Imperial Miners is so good. It plays in 45 minutes. You literally you play a card and you take the action on the card and any action above because you're digging. You're a miner and you're digging your dwarf.
And you're stacking these cards down.
You're kind of splaying them like people on the who are watching us can see it. You don't put the cards right on top of one another. You put them just like halfway. So, and as you put them halfway, you can create these trees, so to speak, but you can also, you match up gold that you find in the mine. So if you get a full gold, it's going to be a victory point at the end of the game. If you get a half a gold, it might be able to turn it into a victory point at the end of the game via various. But it's so cool, and you can go 4 layers deep, and when you play your fourth 4th level, you pay the cost of the card, you take the action on the card. You go up to the 3rd level, you take the action. 2nd, 1st, and 0 level, and the engines, an engine builder, tableau building game of resource management. Love it.
That sounds
to death.
So cool. So every player has their own tree that they're building and does their own stuff.
Absolutely, 100%. And you don't really mess with people, so it is a bit multiplayer solitaire, but it's beautiful, and it just runs cleanly and lovely.
I love that art. I love that world that Ignacio's been playing with for ages now, ever since Imperial Settlers. Yeah. So I'm so excited about that one. I want to get my hands on.
Certainly a good one. All right, let's get over now to the event deck. All right, so you threw our first story. You wanted to put it at the top, I'm sure for a good reason. And this is, can I set you up here?
You can set me up. You can try.
I can try to set you up. I'm pretty good at these, transitions here. So Frank West, who's the former president of Gamma,
designer of Isle of Cats.
Designer of Isle of Cats. He came to you and he mentioned something because he's a listener, just like all you out there. He's a listener, and he mentioned something really cool to Corey that follows up on like last week's, 2 weeks ago's episode. Corey, tell me about it.
So we were talking about edible board games, that there should be more board games where you can actually eat the components. And Frank brought up this cool company called Honey Badger Games that's in Gloucester, England. And they have or had a board game called The Poisoned Chocolate. And it's a box of chocolates that all look the same. It's a social deduction game. And one of the chocolates tastes terrible because it's poison. So you play this social deduction game and try to figure out, you pass chocolates around and all this. And I was just fascinated with this. So I started looking up Honey Badger Games. By the way, I just want to give a shout out. They currently have a Game Found campaign, and it will still be going on through July 28th, where they are selling tea that is themed to role-playing game characters. So there's a ranger tea, there's a sorcerer tea, there's an assassin tea. They also do gummies and candies in the shape of dice and game components. So this really fits in with our edible candy should be more involved in board games. So I was really excited that Frank brought that to my attention.
I noticed that on the link you have here, it goes to their website, and they don't have the poison chocolate game anymore, probably sold out of it, and they didn't reprint it. But you're saying they're currently on Game Found?
Yes, there is a Game Found campaign going on right now for their flavored teas.
Wow.
They also do bespoke. So if there's parties you're interested in holding and you want, gummy or candy components, I'm sure they work with you.
I'm trying to find their campaign, but maybe if I find it, I'll post it into the forums, because I still think, as you kind of said, I can
pass that link around pretty easy.
Yeah, maybe you could post into our guild on Board Game Geek. Maybe you see if you're smart enough to find the guild.
No, I don't read the guild.
Anyway, that was a great follow-up. Thank you for finding that, and thank you Frank West for being a listener and for coming back to us with this very interesting information. So another thing that I believe you put in here as well, now did you not, was that there is a final version, apparently, and I didn't see this happen, of the Pathfinder OGL known as the Orc, right? And this was posted on Dicebreaker. I didn't see this as on any other site. So anything that you gleaned, because you obviously read this, and I haven't read this yet, anything you gleaned from the Orc that we should bring to attention of everyone?
It's more of what they were talking about before, and leaving things in the hands of users and creators and trying to be very hands-off. The interesting thing that I found in this is they kept saying it was for forever. Perpetuity.
It's a perpetual license, specifically a perpetual license. which
So I found that really fascinating that they're basically responding to all of the yelling and screaming that was happening with the open gaming license from WotC. Everything people were upset about with WotC, they're saying, no, not us, not us, not us.
Yeah, and
So
the final version of it, you can find on Paizo.com. I would assume you can just. I'm looking at it now. There's a link in the
yep,
Dicebreaker article. If you just type Orc and Final or something like that, it was posted on June 29th, so 2 weeks ago.
yes, yes.
And I mean, I just like the art that they threw there. It's beautiful. You can download the whole license and read it. But I think the main part of this, as Corey is saying, is that it is all about you as the creator owning content. It is perpetual. It
Yes.
cannot be revoked. It will always be out there for you to use. And kudos to them because and why? How did they? We know why, but like they have the economic, they have the muscle to take on a project like this. I don't mean I'm not saying this in a bad way, take on Wizards, but they could hire very high-powered attorneys to do this, and that's what needed to happen. They needed to actually do this with an attorney to make sure this was all perfect.
Yep, yep. And
very
interestingly, the last time I was following the Paizo Orc, the attorney who was in charge of it is actually one of the board members at Gen Con.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, yes, I think think that was mentioned. Okay, very cool. So now we have
I found that circular connection really fascinating.
Very, very cool. And we have another article from Dicebreaker. Dicebreaker being, by the way, dicebreaker.com, very good with gaming news. I highly recommend them. They're one of our main sources. Cardboard Edison, which is in New Jersey, my home state.
Me too.
And Corey, that's right. We both have roots there. They've announced their own winners of their awards. And Corey?
The Cardboard Edison Award is really fascinating because it's an award specifically given to unpublished games. You're not qualified if you have a contract or a published license or anything like that. So it's been a jumping board for a lot of people to get their games published. And they do help with that as well. If you are a finalist with the Cardboard Edison, they'll help get the game into a published state.
And that's the principle of Cardboard Edison, like, the beginnings of the cardboard, the invention itself is what they promote. And they have these competitions to take these prototypes and judge them. And the winner very often has gotten a contract and been published later on. So who is the winner of the Cardboard Edison Award?
The winner of the 2023 Cardboard Edison is a game called Diatoms, which is a creation of game designer Sabrina Kuyiba. And I apologize if I pronounce that wrong. She's a multimedia artist with her fingers in everything from VR to theme parks and tabletop games. It says, and I'm reading off of Dicebreaker, in this approachable title, 2 to 4 players attempt to build a mosaic composed of infinitesimal bits of algae cut into slides and viewed beneath the light of a microscope. Because, of course, diatoms are algae, single-celled algae in usually pond water, seawater. These diatoms were the subject of a real historical society of Victorian age scientists who would arrange the geometric plankton and other life forms into aesthetic patterns on plates to compare them with colleagues. So diatoms, puzzly, science-themed board game. It's gorgeous. It looks really cool.
Very cool. And a female designer, which is really, really neat. That's great. We're going to skip over that next one, Corey, because we're going to wait until the final.
I know. Just you don't like my news stories.
No, I love your news stories. You dig deep, Corey. But we're going to go to CNC Publishing becomes Passé Ton Tour Games. Is that it? Is that what's going on here? What is this one about? Another one from Corey.
This one, I know a little bit about CNC. They've been involved most recently in the reprint of Kiesling and Kramer's classic game Coal Baron.
Yes.
So they had a pretty successful crowdfunding campaign for the new version of Coal Baron, but it's basically just a deep industry thing that CNC Games has now become Passé Tontu Games. So new logo, new company, just an interesting, shift in. I think it's evidence that the company is becoming a little bigger because of the success of this Kickstarter.
Yeah. So and we've seen rebrandings happening fairly often in the industry with All Play, for instance, having its third rebranding, right?
Yeah,
they were
that's a huge one.
Board Game Tables and something else, and now they're All Play, and that's interesting. So I think as certain companies mature, they want to change their identity a little bit to reach deeper into a target audience. This obviously is a French company, right?
Yep.
Obviously, this is a French
Yep.
company. Passé Tontu Games.
You
All
got
right.
it.
We also have Playpunk. Playpunk finally officially announced with 2 games. So did they not announce any games? And
so this is fascinating because you told me about Playpunk.
Right.
I'm going to say nearly a year ago.
That's right. And this is the brainchild of Antoine Bowser. Am I correct? And another designer?
And Thomas Provost, who's one of the co-founders of Repos.
Provost.
Provost.
Right.
I don't know Thomas.
I actually don't know him either, but I'm looking at the spelling of his name. But I know I do know Antoine pretty well.
Well, Antoine
awesome
Bowser, oh my goodness, he's such a good designer. So, Tokaido and Seven Wonders, and his list of designs is just endless.
So they announced that they were going to become a new studio. And it, like you said, like over a year ago, very possibly that announcement came. And now they've coming out with 2 games. 2 games have been announced from them, and they are drum roll.
The first game is Captain Flip by Paolo Mori, who's one of my favorite game designers. Paolo Mori did Libertalia, which is such a good pirate game. Ethnos, which has just been rethemed into Archaeos Society. Anyway, Captain Flip is by Paolo Mori and Remo Conzadori. And it's described as a devilishly clever family game for 2 to 5, and it'll hit stores the first quarter of 2024. And they cheated a little bit because the second game that they announced doesn't have a title. It just says the second game is an expert game for 2 or 4 players.
2 to
4. 2 or 4.
No. Later down there it says for 2 to 4 players, co-designed by Gregory
Gerard and Matthew Rousset.
Right. So not
released at Edison 24. So it's a very early announce.
Right. So it's interesting. They're really they're slow rolling it, so to speak. Right. They announced the company a year later. Yeah. They announced some games. They'll have one game come out.
I'm pretty sure that it is 2 players or 4 players, because lots of people have come up to me and told me they've played with the new 2-player game from Playpunk and said it's amazing. So Stefan has been talking up the 2-player game from Playpunk and said it's just incredible.
Very, very cool. The next one. The next one is near and dear to everyone's hearts here who like crossover games.
So excited about this.
It's funny, I'm not as excited about this as you probably are. Well, no, so hear me out. Let me say the name of the story.
I don't listen to you.
You probably don't, but everybody else out there
No, you
does.
Talk too much. I need to keep talking over you now. You need to get
beautiful.
Used to this.
You're such a professional the way you talk over people.
I am.
By the way, I have another project that I'm going to be working. Never mind. I'll talk to you about it offline. I have a great one. Wait till you hear this one I have. Anyway, so Gloomhaven Digital is coming to the Nintendo Switch later this year.
Every console. And
apparently every console. How one does that, I don't know. But the article, it says, calls out Nintendo Switch. Maybe that's the first one. So you put this one in there, and I thank you for bringing all these articles to us. I do play Gloomhaven occasionally on Steam, but I don't own console games. It's just, I have enough gaming power in front of me for Steam. I don't really go to the console. So Why is this one for you, being a console game, so cool?
I don't know what it is, but I find an easier time playing a lot of these adaptations on console.
Oh, sure.
Now, the article really is focusing hard on Switch because Nintendo, for quite a while, has been embracing digital board games on the Switch. They are the front runner of bringing digital board games onto console. But Gloomhaven Digital is coming to all the Xboxes. It's coming to PS3, PS4, PS5. It's coming to everything, and it's going to feature cross-platform play. So on my PS5, I can play with your Switch. And Gloomhaven just fits so well in the digital platform. Oh man, it's one of my very favorite digital adaptations. It just works great.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Now, the physicality of Gloomhaven is one of my favorite things in the world, playing with the decks, playing with the figures, playing with the board, but it's long.
Yeah.
If you play a single scenario of the physical board game, which, I mean, I will tell you, I've played over 100 scenarios at this point. Each one takes 2 to 3 hours. But the digital ones, they're amazing. It's 20, 30 minutes, you get a scenario done, and it's so fun.
So, yes, agreed in everything you say. I'm not a console player. I play Steam when I do. My laptop is here in my office. It works. But this is really good for those who do. And if you haven't played Gloomhaven digitally, you absolutely should try. Some people don't want to play physically ever again because it's so good. And you also can buy
so well.
You can also get the Jaws of the Lion. And
and they've announced Frosthaven is coming as well.
And Frosthaven, it's awesome. So
of course it is.
Breaking news. I'm showing you a picture here, and you're gonna have to watch the show to understand this. Don't you say what's on that box, Dr. Thompson. But you see that box?
It's a box.
Do you remember that a certain major Kickstarter that Bonacore went all in on because he was a jerk? You do not know?
There are a few, but you do realize that a certain Corey Thompson goes all in on all the Kickstarters.
You go all in on all the Kickstarters?
Pretty much.
Well, that's your fault. Yeah, I'm not. That's your insanity. Anyway, those who watch the show will be able to see that I just got delivered a huge box with a certain company's name on it, which means, wow, I got a lot of unboxing to do after this is over. This is a reason to come watch the show occasionally versus listening to it on the audio. And you can see me and Corey and Ignacy.
You get to see this.
You get to see that amazing, amazing face of Corey Thompson.
I know.
All right. So why are people confused, Corey, over Tigris and Euphrates? The link that you provided here, I see what you did. The link is broken, but I figured out how to fix it because you're just not a professional like I am. Okay, now I've gotten it.
Thank you. You are terrible.
I literally fixed the link on the fly. Why are people confused?
Thought it was an interesting story. So Tigris and Euphrates, just a little bit of history. Tigris and Euphrates was released in the late 90s. It earned the Spiel des Jahres recommendation, which was the precursor to the Kenner Spiel, because the Kenner Spiel only started in the 2000s. And Z-Man Games had the license for quite a while for Tigris and Euphrates. Z-Man had announced that they were stopping their Euro line. They said that they were no longer in that side of the industry. So Tigris and Euphrates was not going to be done anymore from Z-Man. However, in a couple recent interviews, confusion came to light. Reiner Knizia said in an interview that there was a new version of Tigris and Euphrates that was going to be released at Essen. However, he said he didn't name who the publisher is. We don't know who the publisher is. And Reiner Knizia himself said that he has not seen graphics or finals or designs or anything. So it's in this kind of limbo zone. So there may be a new version, and it is implied that it has new art and new everything. And We just don't know. So there's these conflicting interviews with Reiner Knizia.
Well, but he literally said that the game is coming out at the Spiel at Essen.
Yes.
But did not specify who was publishing it. That is so odd that he would do that.
And that's why I thought it was an interesting news article. And plus, it ties in the interview where he talks about this game the most is with World Series of Board Gaming. So if anybody has any connections with World Series of Board Gaming, I think this would be an interesting tie-in.
I would like to put a little plug out for the World Series of Board Gaming.
Do you know
in Las
something
Vegas.
About the World Series of Board Gaming?
I do. And just as
Tell
an
me
FYI,
about the World Series of Board Gaming.
As an FYI, the attendance this coming year is running it over twice what it was last year. There's going to be different events every night, like social events and games that you can get into as big groups, besides, of course, the main ring events and the finals and all that. So please, if you haven't checked it out and you have some time to spend for vacation in gaming, WSBGVegas.com. I will be there as a VIP, and some other guy is, the guest of honor this year. We won't mention his name, but it's going to be fun, and we get to hang out and play. So
that's too funny, man.
That's a thing. So Tigris and Euphrates, it's great to see it coming back in a new form. It is very abstract for me, but it is one of the tightest, best designs I've ever made. If you like abstract games.
Game. It was actually in the number one spot in Board Game Geek's best games of all time back in 2002. Right now it's at number 103, which, given nearly 100,000 games on BGG, that is no slouch.
Really? Absolutely. So this is interesting. And this is our last news article. We have news that E3 is going to be canceled for 2024 and 2025. And
we're not entirely sure. So there's two conflicting articles here.
You can't.
So I'm sorry. You want to talk it out?
Go for it, baby.
So the LA Board of Tourism released a big public press announcement that E3 was canceled for 24 and 25, with implication that it's just dead.
Which is weird, right?
This show is E3.
Yeah. Isn't the show huge? I mean, just like tens of thousands of people, or right?
It was. But it was, I believe 23 was canceled.
No, what is E3 for the people out there who might not know?
It's a big video game public industry con. So the announcement of all the new video games, the big players would all go, Microsoft, Sony, right. Nintendo, everybody would go to E3, and this is where all the big video game announcements would happen. It was a huge event every summer. It actually would be happening right around now, but 23 was canceled.
Right.
There's just generally talk that the big play, and then Sony said they weren't going to go, and Microsoft said they weren't going to go, and then they couldn't have an E3. So now we have two articles, one that says it's been canceled for next year and the year after. And then another article response from E3 saying, we never said that, but we have no announcements about anything happening anyway. So it's kind of a little bit of a wait, we're still technically around, but there's no dates and there's no plans.
And this specifically is a consumer show, right? The CES is more like industry, but no, CES also is a consumer show, isn't it?
It is, but CES covers more than video games. CES,
right, it's not gaming,
all sorts of electronics. So it's
TVs and new phones and all this stuff. Right, I got you. This one was
E3 is entertainment.
And for entertainment, baby.
You got it.
Right. All right. Well, that is all the news that's fit to print or talk about. Let's get into strategy and tactics. Okay, so last call. Literally, is the last time you're going to be hearing me say, go post questions in our guild in the strategy and tactics segment. You can win prizes from the Grand Gamers Guild. Mark Spector, president there. He's a big listener and a friend and a fan. Great guy. Publishes Endeavor, Artemis, and the Holiday Hijinks game line. and he is giving us a pack of 7 of those. 7, they're micro games to send to someone in the U.S. and some to send another pack to send to somewhere else, someone else in the world. And you can, or you can win a game from Portal Games, or you can win a Podfather merchandise or a Corey merchandise item. Last chance, July 20th. This closes, and then I will announce the winners right after that. Can
we specify that the Podfather merchandise is only underwear?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. Is not only underwear. So we have something here from Morton Monrad Pedersen, who's at Morton MDK. It says, first, let me say, when you announced that Ignacy would often be absent from the show, I got worried. The personalities of you two guys and your fun conversations add a lot to an already interesting podcast. So how could semi-replacing Ignacy not be a really bad thing? Well, it turns out that Corey, oh God, fits right in and fills the large shoes. Well, can you please move your cursor? I do hope that we'll continue to get the Slavic perspective regularly, though. So yeah, so Ignacy's just busy. He runs a huge company, so he just needs to take off every other week approximately. So Corey will be there then. In fact, we'll be all 3 of us at the times when we can do that as well, and hopefully one day all together.
And I super appreciate it. I mean, it's really nice getting feedback like this, and I've got nothing but positive feedback from the Board Game Insiders listeners. I really appreciate it.
That's great. Well, it's really great having you. So you add a lot to the show. Thank you. And the questions. No, he's got 3 questions. That's a lot. Board gaming seems to be growing in Asia, but in my experience, it's hard still to get Asian games here in Denmark. And as far as I can tell, it's equally hard in the rest of the EU. How soon, if ever, do you think that Asian games will be just as easy to get here as in the U.S.? I don't know that I don't know that it's much easier to get a game that's just published in Asia over in the U.S.
Yeah, because I do it quite a bit, and I go through Amazon Japan and some other little stores in Japan. I think the big side of this is that the industry, the publishers, are realizing that there's a huge market in Japan, and a lot of companies are working to localize Japanese games now. One of the biggest players in this has been Allplay. Allplay has been grabbing all sorts of, especially trick takers, but little card games and little board games from the Japanese market and reprinting it specifically for US, but it also is making European distribution easier.
Right. So as Corey said, he actually goes, air quotes, goes out to Amazon Japan to buy these games. So we're really not seeing it any easier. The only way that we get them really is sort of, a publisher here picks it up, and then it's going to filter into Europe as well, but that's of course a slower process. So it depends on who picks up the game for the English speaking market.
The news, like the news with Dice Tower now, I'm seeing more and more news articles about publishers picking up a Japanese game, sometimes retitling it, sometimes not, and then bringing it to a Western market. So it's happening more and more and more.
How hard has it been to enter the Asian markets as a U.S. European publisher? Now this, by the way he's saying it, he's saying going in the other direction. How hard is it to take our games and get there? And the answer is you need a good distributor to or a good, what we use as a consolidator, PSI or impressions, to get your games further out into the world. So it's just simply harder, but it's not impossible. Our Stronghold game certainly was out in Asia in English, unless of course it was picked up by an Asian publisher and then it was published in a local language as well.
And I know from talking to a lot of localizers and publishers that there is a little bit more of there's got to be a little more finesse in working with some of the Asian publishers. There's been a little bit of reluctance for some of the bigger Asian publishers to partner with Western companies. So, it happens all the time, but you need those connections. You need that relationship.
And then his third question is, have you seen the number of game submissions from Asian game designers go up in recent years? It certainly did. In Essen, I would be meeting with Asian game designers. Now, one important point here is that the language barrier is simply bigger. It just is. Someone from Asia who's a designer probably does not speak English particularly well. That's just by definition. They always speak some English, but not as well as the designers across Europe. They pick it up because English is the default language of gaming, for better or for worse. Very often, I would meet with Seiji Kanai, for instance, right? Dropping names again. And he would have with him...
Love letter.
He would have with him a translator, who, he would sometimes speak in English, and then sometimes you speak in Japanese to the translator, who would then come and tell me what he was saying. So it's just harder for Asian game designers to come directly to US and European publishers, but they do, and they're always welcome, because literally I've always said for years some of the most innovative stuff was coming out of these designers and small companies in Asia.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that the big publishers are realizing that now. So the Tokyo Game Fair has turned into almost a necessity for American publishers to go visit and look for new things to localize. The other side that's opening up really big now is Brazilian game designers are becoming very, very hot. And a lot of companies are now farming the Brazilian game designer market. The biggest, and I'm going to bring this full circle, the biggest example of this is designer Zé Mendes, who did Brazil Imperium for Portal Games. He's now a very hot game designer who's being wooed and wined and dined by a lot of publishers for new titles.
Very, very cool. Chris Dupree, who's at C. Dupree, he asks, will AI speed up the creation of board games through testing iterations and written rule generation, or will it increase the number of copyright reskinned games flooding the market? Wow, that is a very interesting and insightful question, and I have no idea. Corey, what would you think about that? Will AI, basically he's saying, will AI
this is a
huge
can of worms. There's so many things here.
Last week when you weren't here, we talked about AI. No. Seriously. Last week you talked about the AI creation of art and how that's going to affect gaming,
and that's going to be a big deal. Yeah,
that's going to certainly be a big deal. And I'm going to bring it back up again. Ignacy and I basically, and we are backed up by at least one artist who told me this. It's Bill Bricker, the illustrator and graphic designer at Indie Game Studio, Stronghold Games, Indie Boards and Cards. He said, you use AI art generation as a tool. It's not the end all to be all. You make it design some stuff, and then the artist still has to take out various things, add various things to make it the way they want. So it's a start.
It's very good for variation as well. If you have a set of designs, you can tell AI to learn from that set and make more.
Right.
So you can do variations on a theme. Now, specifically with speeding up creation of board games through testing iteration, I would say no. AI, I think, does testing and iteration on games to a level that we don't want. They learn how to play the game perfectly, and nobody that you sell it to will play it perfectly, and then it becomes not a fun game if you play it perfectly. Also, I think that online testing has already taken that seat. So right now, a lot of big publishers will do public testing on TTS through a Discord server, and they get thousands and thousands and thousands of real people playing the game, and they get the data and numbers that they need. So I don't think AI has a role in play testing and iteration. Rule generation, I'm mixed on. I don't know. It might be a good first pass, but it's not going to make a good rule set.
This is a great question, and literally, I'm gonna like say I don't know, but I basically agree with Corey's sentiment that it probably is not going to have a particularly big impact on testing and rule generation. I mean, maybe in the long term. I just don't think this is around the corner that AI are going to write rules.
No.
I don't think so.
Rule writing is such a specific skill, and there's only a few people who do it well. So
yeah,
it would be great if there was an automated way to make decent rules, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Not yet. I mean,
the fear of having reskin copycat games through AI, I don't think we're there. I don't think that's going to happen.
Let's face it, it's easy enough for you or I to do it, right? To just pick a game, change the theme, the mechanic, change the theme, move a few things around. Absolutely have to change the rules. Rules are copyrightable. So it's already easy to do. I don't think this is going to
been a couple
the
lawsuits
game like
about that already.
Lal Margu, who's Lal Margu, says, hello, everyone. Congratulations for your almost 300 episodes. You are not the only ones who week after week spend time with this Insider podcast. So thank you so much, Lal. I recently backed my first Kickstarter for a board game in March 2023. Wow. First, let's go. I guess it was called To Japan.
No, it's called Let's Go to Japan from AEG Games, and the designer is Julie Wood. Fantastic tableau builder, great art. And just a shout out, the designer basically spent his pandemic learning everything about Japan, everything about Japanese tourism, and learned to be fluent in Japanese.
Wow.
And this game is really a passion project and a work of art. It's a fantastic game. So sorry, that was sidetracked.
No problem. So he's saying the delivery is scheduled for, he backed it in 23. The delivery is scheduled for March 23 back and end of campaign, I assume. March 24 is the scheduled delivery. Apparently, most of the artwork is done. The rules are ready. A great part of the work seems to be done. Here is the question. Why do they need a whole year to get the game ready and send it to the backers? In other terms, what happens between the end of a funding campaign and delivery? And that is different for a crowdfunding project compared to a normal retail game. All my other backings were for special dice. There, I do understand that they need to find time for solutions to mass production. So, lol. The answer is it really just can take that long easily. Maybe they're also what we call in IT and in gaming under promising and over delivering. Maybe that you'll get it in 9 months instead of 12 months. But in the end, it's not, I bet, 100% done. It looks like it's 100% done, but is it truly done? Are they still tweaking? Are they still working on things? They also don't have the money yet. That takes weeks to get the money out of Kickstarter. There is just a lot of different touch points to go from, okay, well, we have most of this done to we're getting the game into our warehouse and then shipping it out to all of the backers. It at the absolute fastest from this point, it would be 6 months. So they're saying 12. I think it's not unreasonable.
And remember, they tweak rule sets and little iterations and things like that up until the moment that they finalize.
Absolutely.
And once they finalize, it's all a game of lines and cues and waiting. So you tell the printer to print it, and they have a line of other things they're printing. They print it when it comes turn in line, and then it takes time to print it. And then there's a line to get it shipped. And so you wait in line until the shipper can ship. And then it goes into the thing and it ships to the US, and then it sits in a port, and there's a line for the distributor to pick it up. So it's time and time and time and time. So it really does take that many months.
It does, and that's the way it works, and there's no way around it, basically. Rob McClune, good friend. Rob, thank you for being a often poster here. He's at Phantom Existence. I love that. If you were to suddenly decide to design a role-playing game, what setting would you use? Would you go for sci-fi, horror, traditional fantasy? What board game property would you like to role-play in? So there's sort of two different questions here. Corey, have you ever thought about designing a role-playing game? Have you ever thought about a genre that you want to do?
I have, and I'm really drawn to sci-fi steampunk. I think that's a really interesting world, taking kind of the Victorian aesthetics and Victorian beliefs and bringing them into modern knowledge of where that technology can go. I love that world. A board game property. I mean, the art alone on
Well,
Scythe and Expeditions, it has this aesthetic of steampunky peasant czarist Russia, and that seems like a really cool place to do role playing. But that one's tricky. The art is owned by a separate entity than the game and all this business. So, but that would be a really cool property to mess around in.
so I'm a obviously from hearing me talk on the podcast, I'm a true fan of fantasy role playing. But I'm as I get I don't know, older, more mature, which I'm not. My mind doesn't like to wrap itself around huge rule sets. It just doesn't. I want to take more time role playing using those actual words, like sitting there being the character, versus working with all the crazy mechanics that like Pathfinder 1 has or D&D 3.5.
I love the charts and mechanics. Man, the more details, the more charts, the more specifics, the better.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Oh, God, no. Oh, then yeah. So yeah, and I've actually mentioned that I'm not gonna, I'm gonna be playing my next campaign, and that'll drive right into my answer here. My next campaign, I'm starting another D&D 5, and we'll talk more about that when it actually starts up, which is fantasy, but it's rules lighter, not rules light. It's still a pretty heavy system. Rules lighter than Pathfinder 1, and certainly, it's just more easy to wrap your head around. I like it. The tools are great. My next system that I'm going to play in is the One Ring. Done. One Ring, second edition. I'm absolutely going to do that. Either I'm running it or a friend of mine is going to run that. And with that,
so cool.
And with that, if I was literally to design a role-playing game, sure, therefore it would probably be in fantasy, but it would probably be in the low magic style world of like the Lord of the Rings and the One Ring, of course.
Yeah.
In these games, the power curves are crazy. That's just I don't want to spend time thinking about the next unbelievable sword I have to get or things like that. I want to play for the experience and move around, and leveling up doesn't have to be getting mega powers. It could simply be getting small things or more contacts, and that's where I would go. I think this is a very intriguing question, but I'm not the typical person to ask this of. I have played, little sci-fi. I played a little bit of Champions Hero System.
Oh, that was really good. There
What do
were
you call
two
it?
big ones.
Superpowers, superheroes, and I played a lot of Vampire. The
Masquerade,
Gothic Horror, Vampire, the Masquerade, and all of those. But really, the bulk is in fantasy. I would therefore probably stay in fantasy.
I actually played quite a while with Middle Earth role playing system from Iron Crown Enterprises, which was quite a while ago. I'm dating myself here. And that modified into Rollmaster, which is the extreme of this. More charts is always better. Oh, man. Every single weapon had its own chart. Every single armor class had its own chart.
You are old, so dating yourself just makes sense. Don't worry about that.
I mean, look, I'm not hiding it. I'm pretty old.
I'm much older than you. Anyway.
And happy birthday, old man.
Yeah, thank you very much. I did have my birthday at Dice Tower East. It was wonderful just hanging out and socializing. That was what I love to do. We're going to move on, and we're going to skip play testing only because the question has only been up there for a couple of days, a very short period of time. So let's move out. We'll do the play testing that we put up, which is about pre-ordering from a publisher. We'll do that one on next episode. And let's get directly to final scoring. Thank you so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. If you want to be part of the podcast, you can ask us questions for the strategy and tactics segment, possibly win prizes, post them in the correct thread in our guild, also answer our question to you from the play testing segment in the guild on Board Game Geek. Check out our websites, portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, dicetowerdish.com. Talk to us on social media. Interact with us on Facebook. Like our pages, /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, and /PodfatherGaming. You can speak directly to Ignacy, Corey, and Steven Twitter and Instagram is at Portal Games US, at Podfather Gaming, at Dice Tower Dish, at Dice Tower Now, and the YouTube channels Portal Games Movies, The Podfather Gaming, and Above Board TV. On TikTok, Ignacio's Dancing, Portal Games US. We'd really love to see you at a convention. If you're going to be at the WBC, I'll see you there. I will be insulted if you don't come and take a selfie with me, hang out, have a beer. That's the most social convention of all because I just open game. There's no events. There's nothing. There's no library. We bring our own games. There's a little library, though. Yes, there's a library. I shouldn't say that. Anyway, come talk to me or at Gen Con. You'll never find anybody at Gen Con. But if you do happen to do that, please say hi to myself, to Corey. Ignacio will not be there, sadly. Board Games Insider, professionally edited by Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine. If you want him to edit your podcast, reach out to him, tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. And the great voice you hear during the intro, outro, and in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do voiceover work for you, raygreenleevoiceover.com. We come to the end of the show, Corey. Say something wise that people would not be able to hear unless you are right there. Oh, he has.
I've already said that we have a special celebrity stage event at Gen Con. And I mean, I'm going to preclude this with the fact that there is a SAG strike going on and actors are like herding cats. But I want to say that it's near certainty that I have a certain sci-fi actor who has been in something very recent and something very old. And she will blow away the stage event.
That's all he's saying. So literally, besides going over to our guild and posting questions, you should go over to gencon.com if you're going to Gen Con and buy a cheapo ticket for the two events. Will she be at both events or the first? She'll be at the
definitely the stage event.
The first event, and buy the other ticket too. It's $2 or something really small. You're gonna have a great time in the big thing. Big production because Corey and Above Board TV are doing really big things. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See you later, everyone.